to a vote to strike all communications except for those that I just named. All in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? That the motion passes. We will now proceed with communications only being from the Department of Civic Engagement, Department of Community Outreach, and Department of Diversity and Inclusion. Are there any other amendments to today's agenda? Yes, Mr. Todd Olson?
I just have a point of information. I don't think any of the justices received the actual agenda for today's.
We'll get you some. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
Treasurer Colquitt will be getting those agendas for you all shortly. I very much apologize for that. Next up. We're just gonna wait until he comes back. That way everybody has the agenda before we proceed forward. Just that way everybody can see what's happening.
Personal privilege.
Garfield,
Personal privilege.
granted. Director Edwards?
Do we need the voting records for people to do recommendation?
I believe we already took voting records for that. Oh, wait, what was your question? I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood.
I thought that there's like, even though we strike communication, aren't there like 4 people still gonna do communication?
Yes, there are a few people that are still good.
So can they do it?
Oh, yes. Oh, the only issue is, we cannot move forward until we have approved, or we say there are no further amendments to the agenda, and then we have to progress into guest speakers. So we were just taking a slight pause that way.
I just want to show.
Oh, yeah, of course. Granted. Yes,
At the risk of making a bad first impression, where could I get one of the cool white name things to put my cool title on as well?
the, like name tags?
No, just like a white paper thing, just a plot right there.
I believe. Or do we have any other copies of like the white papers that can be used as name tags? Okay. Feel free to visit. Thank you. Okay, point of order. We are still in the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Okay, moving forward, are there any amendments to today's agenda other than the communications portion that was already voted on? Hearing none, we'll now move forward. There are no guest speakers today. In terms of public participation and student concerns, do we have any that anyone would like to rise at this moment? Okay, hearing none, we will move forward with the communications that were outlined for today. First up being Department of Civic Engagement.
Guys. Yes, okay, cool. So I only have a few things to announce. After a meeting with Heather Polanski, the Assistant Director for Civic Engagements, I learned that we are now proudly signed up with the National Study of Learning, Voting, and Engagement. This was something that was pushed through over the last few years, and we finally got engaged. So just reading off some statistics, there was a 71.9% voting rate at Towson's campus, compared to the 66% campus-wide voting rate nationally. So we're doing really good. I'm proud of that. And there is a gap between minority voting that shrunk over the last few years. And when it comes to local elections, the voting rate actually doubled from 2014 to the 2018 midterms. And we are hoping to replicate that same growth for next year's elections. Also, one more thing, TU knows the first, the collaborative event between me and President next Thursday. So I hope you attend. With that, I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Chief Justice Ricardo Olson.
When and where is the keynote the first?
My apologies. So it's going to be in Presentville. What lecture hall is it going to be in?
The lecture hall.
Yes.
In Freedom Square, that
Okay.
area, yeah.
So the Freedom Square Lecture Hall from I believe 8 to 9 or 7.
We will send out like more information about that once the flyers finalized, but it'll be in the lecture hall. I believe it's 7 to 9, but we'll confirm that with you guys.
Senator Maddox.
7 to 9 AM or PM.
PM. No way.
Crazier things have
Good
happened.
question, good question.
Are there any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we will now proceed. Next up is Department of Community Outreach.
Hello, everyone. Just a quick announcement. My event, Coffee with the Cop, is this Thursday from 10 to 12 at Free Square. So please come out for coffee, donuts. And yeah, so the TPD mingle with us, and it'll be a good time. Love to see your faces there. So with that, I yield.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Senator Harding?
Okay, I have a question. Can I use my 21st?
Granted. Moving forward, we have the Department of Diversity and Inclusion.
Hello, everyone. The only thing I just wanted to mention is that next Wednesday, on November 10th, is not a TU. That will be happening here in New York Union and involving Ian. It is from 5 to 7 p.m. So please promote it, and I hope I can see all of your lovely faces there. And please let people know to show up. There'll be a bunch of food there, and if they would love to be a panelist, it's not too late, and they can just contact me and remind them to go to the link tree to fill out the forms and everything. But that's it, and with that, I yield.
Very much. Are there any questions?
Is there a flyer or something we can like send out? or something from that?
Yeah, the flyer, it's on our Instagram page, so you can go ahead and post that, sure.
Any other questions? Comments? Awesome. Thank you very much to everyone that's participated in communications today. We will now move into opinions of the court. Are there any opinions of the court today?
Yes.
If you'd like to go with it, whatever one's easier.
Hi, everyone. Just want to say that this week there is an opinion of the court. I wanted to say that in the appeal submitted by the Ethiopian Eritrean student organization, Eritrean student organization, the judicial branch found their appeal was approved by the judicial branch. We'll have a budget this fall semester, and I believe it's in regards to finance bill number 4. With that, I yield.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now we're gonna do the little awkward switch thing we do all the time.
Hello, can you all hear me fine? So we will now move into unfinished business. Yes, Vice President Foster.
I'm going to make a recommendation to break Senate rules and review new business before unfinished business.
Does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Hayes,
I accept.
is there a second? Senator Rank,
I second.
great. Are there any discussion? Yes, Senator Rank.
I have a point of information.
If we move to new business and don't reach unfinished business, won't resolution 17 die because it's been 2 weeks?
Vice President Triscoe.
So yes, it would. Because we're moving to review new business first, we would still have to get to that unfinished business if we would like to table it or proceed with it. But the recommendation was just to review new business before unfinished business. So we'll still be able to go.
Chief Justice Hurtado Olson.
I would like to know like the reasoning as to why the switch.
Vice President Triscoe.
So with the resolution number 17, it regards the grading scale. It was requested by Director Leo as well as Director Edwards. And they would like to still get public participation on this bill. However, they would also like to gather more information and would prefer for it to be eventually potentially tabled. I also believe that it is one of the more lengthy bills on the agenda today. So it may be helpful for us to go over that bill last if we are already expecting to possibly table it, as well as because of the length of the conversation, just getting the other bills done first.
President Deval.
This is not to undermine what Vice President Triscoe said in any way, but I just wanted to know if it might be more beneficial to review resolution 17 and if it is to be tabled to do that towards the beginning of the discussion. Just to keep going with the agenda as it's written and just table it if the Senate desires to. But that doesn't need to be taken into consideration.
Senator.
My only concern is we get carried away with another bill and don't have time to circle back and table. So I also feel it might be more beneficial to review to table if that's the intention of the directors who wrote the bill, who commissioned the bill, which is fine with me. I just am worried we won't get to it and then it will die and have to start all over.
Director Leo.
I agree with both President DeVoe and Senator Rankin. As the person who recommended that, or asked that we do that, I asked those folks. Or, yeah.
Director Edwards.
Yeah, I think that we should table it now, just so it won't die. If we still want to do it, we just need to get more information on it before we present it to President DeVoe. So I think we should vote to table it now and then we'll present it.
Okay, any further discussion? Yes, Vice President Triscoe.
I would like to retract my recommendation based on the people that wrote the bill as well as the directors preferring that we do go over it first. I agree with you all. I think that you've always made some very good points. So I would be happy to retract that statement and just proceed with the agenda.
Okay, thank you so much. With that being said, are there any motions on the floor? Senator Rankin,
I move that we review resolution 17.
is there a second? Senator Maddox,
A second now.
is there any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll now proceed into a vote to review resolution number 17. All those in favor? All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Thank you. That the motion passes. We're now reviewing resolution number 17. Yes,
I would like to request just a point of information. Director Edwards, are you presenting your PowerPoint along with this today, or would you like to wait for that?
So I'm not presenting today. I would hope that we can table it.
sorry.
So I recommend that we table the bill today, because when I do present it, I want to present it in the slide that I looked at what the bill is, so you guys can, today is just not the day to do it.
Thank you.
So with that, can I recommend that we table it? I recommend that we table the bill until, I have a specific date for it, but can I say the date? Till November 16th, which is 2 days from now. So.
Would anyone like to accept our recommendation? Anyone?
I accept.
Is there a second? Senator Salim,
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll now move into a vote to table resolution number 17. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Thank you so much. That the motion passes. Resolution number 17 will be tabled. We'll now move into new business. Are there any motions on the floor? Senator Washington, the specific bill name.
Finance bill, number 4.
Thank you. Is there a second? Senator Matthew. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll now vote. Yes.
Treasurer Colquitt,
They're voting for.
I didn't finish. There was discussion and I'm. Okay, cool. We'll now proceed into a vote to review finance bill number 4. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? That the motion passes. We'll now review finance bill number 4. Any discussion? Yep.
Treasurer Colquitt, if you go to the second page of the bill, go to the second page of the bill, under the activity account, the total there is 2,400. But the total, if you add up the individual items, the total doesn't equal that. That's because I accidentally cut off the DJ/host for the Taste of Africa event. So adding that back in, I recommend that we add $150 under Taste of Africa for a DJ/host. And this will not change the total amount that is listed on the bill.
Thank you. Does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Washington.
Senator Washington, I accept that recommendation.
Thank you. For a second. Senator Ring.
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion? If not, we'll now move into a vote to add $150. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? That the motion passes. Any more discussions? I believe, I like people here to speak on behalf. Yes, so you guys can come up to the mic and kind of tell us about your budget and such. Okay, and you can go line by line if you want to.
They're asking for $150 for our host, and then we have
I'm sorry.
you can't hear me,
Yes, thank you.
and we're gonna have 2 performers, and I don't think, okay. We're having 2 performers. We are asking for $700 for each of those performers, and then for trap karaoke for our equipment. That's kind of the layout, and that's based on like a receipt that we have from previous years. And then that's also in our research. And then that's about it for trap. And then for Taste of Africa, we're asking for 700. Oh yeah, and then the 150 for a DJ or a host. And then our invoice for culture show shows a total of 820, but we're asking for less. And then Taste of Africa for the equipment, we're asking for 300. That's also from invoices that we've had from the past.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Director Leo?
Treasurer Colquitt has already figured out, worked the numbers and it works into our budget.
I'm sorry.
The amount that we're allocating, have you already, I'm assuming you've already allocated, or figured out the numbers and everything, it will be in line with our budget, this request?
If your question is like, we have the money to fund the budget, yes.
Oh, all right.
Senator Ring?
Is there a point of information? Is there a quote for how much the host is, which I may be missing it, but.
Yeah, I don't think that that's in our research.
Okay.
But we have reached out to a potential host, and I think that's the range that they're looking at, and that's also what we've provided in the past as well.
Hi, thanks for coming. I would recommend if you all choose to pass this budget, pass it contingent upon them providing, you can just provide like the email correspondence or whatever you have, like with the post, do you have that or? You do, okay, contingent upon them providing that, just so we can document how much it costs for the host and DJ. Yeah,
Do you want like the performers too, or just like the host?
is that not in the research either?
Your question, sorry.
Is that not in the research either, the performers?
So no, that is in the research, but I don't think. Okay, I'm so sorry. Could you repeat your
Right,
first, your
no, it's okay.
original question?
No, it's okay. So, so from my understanding, in the research you all provided, the host is not included, like the cost isn't documented in the research. Is the performer's cost in the research or no?
No.
It's not? Okay. So in order to pass this, we need documentation of that cost. So I would recommend if the Senate is to pass it, that they pass it contingent upon you all providing the research to Treasurer Colquitt by close of business Friday.
Okay. that's
Okay,
fine.
thank you.
Vice Mayor Chris Constant.
Just
As per point of.
If they accept it, they don't.
Does anyone accept the recommendation? Senator Rank,
I accept.
is there a second? Senator Hayes,
I second.
thank you. Is there any discussion? Yes, Vice Mayor Chris Constant.
I just have a quick point of clarification. Would this be in regards to adding another whereas or therefore be a resolve into the bill? Or would it just be more of a?
No, nothing would need to be added to the bill per se, just the documentation that we have of the cost. Yeah, and then in terms of the like publishing of said bill, it would be like they need to add it like to the packet, but yeah.
Is there any further discussion on the recommendation? Okay, if not, we'll now move into a vote on the recommendation to provide more research contingent upon passing this. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, I can just say this, okay. No, it's okay. It was a lot of second word. So passing the bill contingent upon them providing, providing research for the hosts and the performers. Is the DJ included in that?
There won't be. Yeah.
Are the DJ and the host the same?
No.
They're not, okay. Well, providing research for the performers and entertainers, by close of business this Friday.
We can do that.
Okay, cool, but yeah.
Kind of close discussion on that, so we'll now proceed into a vote on this recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Okay, that the motion passes. Any general discussion, concerns before we vote on the finance bill as a whole? Any link?
I have a point of information. I'm sorry, I think we already went over this, but we already voted to break Senate rules to review this bill,
No.
or was that? Okay.
No, I retracted my
Oh,
my
okay.
recommendation for that.
I see it.
Thank you.
And sorry, I have to follow. This passed through appropriations correctly. Okay.
Any further questions, discussion, concerns? Okay, if not, we'll now move into a vote on finance bill number 4. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? That the motion passes and your budget has passed. Okay. Vice President Tristan. Thank you. Okay, are there any motions on the floor? Any matters?
I move that we review resolution 18.
Is there a second, Senator Evelyn? Is there any discussion? If not, we'll now move to review resolution. We'll now vote to review resolution number 18. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? That the motion passes, we'll now review resolution number 18. Are there any discussion? I believe it was written by Senator Evelyn on behalf of President. Would you like to speak on behalf? Question,
Yeah, sorry,
Director Johnson.
is this gonna be a committee sort of like the other Senate committees, or will it have like people from the J board, exec board, Senate, all that stuff?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
So is this gonna be like the GovOps committee, or is it gonna be more like everyone together?
I'm kind of confused about the bills. Okay. So he's asking, who would be represented on the committee. So this would not just be a Senate specific committee, no.
Thank you.
No problem. You. Director Lee.
I would offer an amendment that we add. I would offer an amendment that we add the composition of the committee, whether it be, simple words of it shall compose members from exec, however we want to decide on composition. I suggest that we add a section about composition.
I was gonna, before that, I was gonna ask whoever wrote the bill to kind of speak first before we kind of add anything in it. So if you don't mind, you can bring it, after this, if that's okay. So Senator Evelyn, do you mind, giving us a brief overview of the bill?
So basically, so the bill is just for the future staff that has the ability to create any ad hoc committees that she wants to. And since we had a lot of great discussion on a lot of the different dining hall bills that are going to come out, some of the discussion probably would be better, I guess, in better use of being in these committees. So we can kind of work out all the details instead of just kind of talking about it in here, and then it gets kind of lost in translation. But if the teacher sponsor has anything to say, then yeah.
So, this topic was brought up, I believe it was last year. Right, yes. So last year, there was a lot of discussion about the implementation of these bills and how we hold the university accountable after these bills get passed. A great way to do that, or a way to do that, is to form a committee. Specifically with this, we would be doing the ad hoc committee, which is in the government, in the Constitution, in the bylaws. This bill is a little bit vague. It's intended to be so. It's intended to kind of just be something that says, okay, we formed this committee. It is done. I want to give the committee enough reign to be able to go over the topics that are necessary. We do already have a food insecurity committee, so differentiating between those two topics is going to be something that will be continuously looked at. But this would kind of be a surefire way that we can have all of these dining bills discussed. It would be a relatively open committee. We are happy to have many different people on it. So you do not just have to be a senator, you do not have to be a specific director. It's kind of if you're interested in it, if you want to be a part of it, you're able to be. So that's kind of the gist of the bill. And thank you very much, Senator Eaglin, for writing.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions, concerns? Director Johnson,
Personal privilege.
granted. Anyone else? Director Leo, did you want to bring on your concern back up before we proceed?
Yeah, I recommend that we amend to add a section about the composition of the committee. So whether it be how many members are on the committee or how many, how the committee will be appointed, or however the Senate wants to word that. I think there should, believe there should be a area that speaks to that.
Would anyone like to accept that recommendation? Yes, Senator. Yes, so someone can accept it, but if you don't want to proceed with this, you do not have to second it. Senator Mackey. Thank you. Is there a second? Senator Eaglin. Okay. Is there any discussion? Chief of Staff Ambush.
I agree. I think there should be a line outlining, because it's an ad hoc committee, I know there's been confusion of who's in an ad hoc committee, so I think it's worthwhile adding who's in the committee. I've been doing transition materials for 2 years, and one of our problems is a lot of our bills and a lot of our documents are not detailed enough. So I think even adding this line, even if you think it's invaluable, is worth it for SG administrations 3, 4, 5 years from now.
Senator Ring. I would like first either Director Leo, I guess, someone to give concrete language to add before we move forward. That's for those responsible.
Just based off of the one committee that was formed a few administrations ago, the food and security one that is mentioned in here, that did have 7 people on that committee. However, I believe it does specify that it has to be 7 senators in our governing documents. So I would recommend that if we are to move forward with this recommendation, we would phrase it along the lines of having 7 FGA members from either the legislative, executive, or judicial branch that will be on this committee.
My question for the body as well as Vice President Jostaka, whomever can answer. So for this committee, would you all like there to be a need for representation from every branch or purely based off of interest?
Anyone like to answer the question? Director Johnson?
I feel like it being purely based off of interest would probably be better. I just think more work would get done that way. If anyone can hear me, I think it would be better if it was based personally on interest of joining the committee. I think that way more stuff would get done, and more people would be interested. Yeah.
Chief of Staff English?
In my opinion, it should be based off interest, but I do think at least a third should be senators since it is an ad hoc committee.
I was actually going to agree with Chief of Staff Ambush. I do think that it should be off of interest. I think that that really can propel a lot of people when they're passionate about something. But I also agree that I do think that at least a third of it should be senators, specifically because they will be the ones writing these bills and kind of handling that.
Director Leo?
Just for the formal language of that motion, then it would be the committee. What?
Oh, just please use the mic.
The committee will of up to 7 members, consisting the selection based off of interest from members of any of the 3 branches, with 1/3 being senators.
Present the vote. I have concern about the language of 1/3 because 7 isn't divisible by 3. So I would recommend, no, it's okay. I would recommend just to say 3 senators. No, it's completely okay. I just wanted to say that, just for clarity's sake, because I know the whole 2/3 thing, we can get a little confused with fractions in the past, so that's my recommendation. But you can continue, Director Leo.
With at least is 3 a good number?
I'm kidding.
With at least 3 senators. And just to be clear, it doesn't mean that 7 people have to be on the committee, just that 7, there can be up to 7 people on the committee.
Some last concerns, questions, Chief Justice Artado Olson.
So I just have a question. Oh, okay, sorry. So I just have a quick question, about having a limit of 7. In the event that we have people, more than 7 people who are interested in being in this committee, what's the process?
I don't necessarily think there would be a process just because all of our representative positions in SGA, like there's 25 cap for the Senate and stuff like that. So I just feel like there should be a cap somewhere, but you know, everything in SGA is quite collaborative. So, and you can present proposals to committees. So I don't think that it should be too malleable of a number, but that's just my opinion. And I think to get at your underlying question there, I think there should be a cap because when committees get too big, that kind of defeats the point of a committee. So yeah.
This committee knowledge specifically with ad hoc committees is also very much public. So they do have to share certain reports with the members of the SGA. So if anybody is particularly interested or if they do submit a proposal and they're not able to be on that committee, there are still other ways that they're able to get involved with it and become knowledgeable on those aspects. So even if we did have a situation where we ran into that cap getting hit, there are still other ways that we could go about that.
I think I have maybe some questions also. What's this do?
Yeah, I had a question, I guess. Is there a significance for the reservation of Senate spots in the committee?
Can you repeat that one more time, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if there was a significance of the amount of senator spots.
Someone better suited to answer may want to answer as well, but I would say probably because senators reserve the right to write legislation to, so sorry, it's okay. Senators are able to write legislation pertaining to the committee, so it's important that they are at least in some capacity involved in ad hoc committees to enact the findings, whatever that might be. I'm not sure if anyone wants to add to that.
I think it to some degree cuts out the middleman of making senators knowledgeable of the issues. I don't know why I'm looking over here. You asked the question, I apologize. But I think that it cuts it out a little bit just because when you request legislation, there's a whole process that exists to like work with your senator and bring them up to speed and research and things of that nature. But I think senators being in those spaces already is helpful to ultimately do what Senator Rank was alluding to or talking about, which is writing the actual legislation. But I think that for remaining, I mean, this is my personal opinion. You can change the number if you like, but for remaining members is enough to have alternate perspectives, I think. Vice President Chizikowska.
I would agree. It's also ad hoc is supposed to be technically under the committees within in the governing documents. The ad hoc committees are specifically close to the different committees within the Senate. They're also supposed to be created by the president, and then the vice president is supposed to oversee them. A lot of legislation comes through committees, which again is why I agree with this president about, as well as what Senator Rink said, about it being kind of vital for senators to be a part of that conversation. That way, when bills do get brought up and concerns do get brought up, they don't have to go through 1,000,001 other channels to kind of get to that.
I was just gonna bring the conversation back because I feel like we kind of went on and on for a little bit. The recommendation was to add a specific section, and currently, correct me if I'm wrong, we are discussing what's to be added within the recommendation. Okay, do we currently have that wording? Director Leo, did you wish to
Yeah, we.
let us know what the wording is?
Oh, you wrote it down.
Senator Rank?
So sorry. So, since our Director Leo, correct me if this is incorrect. I have whereas the committee shall be comprised of no more than 7 members with a minimum of 3 senators present. Is there anything else? Are we good with that?
Or can we add 7 members of any branch with a minimum of? Should we add that?
Yes, Senator. I think I don't necessarily think it's relevant. Like, I think it's implied, but we could say 7 SGA members, like 7 student government members, if that is helpful. And members of the student government association. That's the thing.
Oh,
Discussion on the wording. Vice President Tristan.
I'm sorry, I know we've been asking to like read it 1,000,000 times. Can we just get it like one more time with that added portion?
Go ahead. Okay. Whereas the committee shall be comprised of no more than 7 members of the student government association with a minimum of 3 senators present.
Okay, everyone's on the same page, I believe. Are there any further discussion before proceeding to a vote on the recommendation? Okay, if not, we'll now move to vote on the recommendation by Director Leo. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? With that, the motion passes. That will be added. Are there any further discussion on the resolution as a whole? Chief Justice Bertano.
So, sorry, when I was reviewing the resolution, I realized that the bylaws section that was mentioned is actually not correct. If you look at the bylaws, Article 2, Section 3, subsection Z, that is specifically the grant review committee. I recommend that we change that portion of the resolution to be actually just bylaws, Article 2, Section 4, that's specifically ad hoc.
Does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Harding,
I accept the recommendation.
is there a second? Senator Evelyn, is there any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll now move into a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Okay. Great, that the motion passes. Okay, that change will be made. Any further discussion? Justice Field?
Yeah, also for the second whereas, it references Article 2, Section 4, subsection U. I think it is subsection U. Was it a V? Or is that, I'm assuming that's also referring to the bylaws?
Okay, so Article 2, Section 4 is under President Powers. Subsection U describes their ability to create ad hoc positions within the Constitution.
the Constitution and not the bylaws.
Yes.
Just wanted that.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted that clarification that it was under the bylaws, I mean, under the Constitution and not the bylaws.
Yes, it's in the Constitution. Any further discussion? It's friendly, but just in the third whereas, please capitalize this again, Constitution, but it's referenced earlier in the sentence, like an in-text citation. But yeah, that's fine. Anything else? Okay, if not, we'll now move to vote on resolution 18 as a whole. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Thank you. With that, the motion passes. Resolution 18. Are there any motions on the floor? And watching the matter.
I move that we review resolution number 19.
Is there a second? Senator Maddox,
Senator Maddox, I second that.
is there any discussion? If not, we'll now move to vote to review resolution number 19. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? We got the motion passes, and I will do resolution number 19. Is there any discussion? Yes.
So I just wanted to talk about why I wanted this bill. So the reason why I asked, Senator Hayes to write this beautiful piece of legislation is because, I do not feel that Towson University's, election timeline is sufficient enough. I think it puts a lot of undue stress on chief of staff to try to transition people while exams are going on. And I'm not gonna lie, that's like a really tall order. And as someone who got no transition materials and literally had to figure out my role on my own during the COVID year, it was very, very difficult. And a lot of other schools have their elections earlier, and we're not even asking for that much earlier. We're asking for the elections to be moved up like a week or two earlier than it normally would. That would allow time for understudies. That would allow me to transition, me and subsequent chief of staff to transition each new exec board and old exec board into new positions to make sure that the subsequent executive board is ready and ready to go even before exams begin, because doing transitions before exams and then a lot of times graduating executive board members, they will just like, after their exam, they just like disappear. So asking people who are not in those positions to do transitions in June is just unrealistic. It just doesn't happen. Trust me, I've seen it for like 3 years in a row. So all this says is just moving up elections by like a week or two, which would give chief of staff just more time to complete transition materials and make sure that the new executive boards and the old executive boards exchange the information that needs to be exchanged in that intermediate period before inauguration in May.
Senator Hayes, do you have anything to add? I know you kind of helped with the writing process. It's not as.
I kind of agree with mostly Chief Stephen says. When looking at all the other schools' constitution and bylaws, as you can see, there are more schools, a lot of schools have them honestly before April. And when seeing why they do it, it's just so purposely for the understudy purpose. And when talking to Chief of Staff Ambush, I could feel the stress when just talking to him. So I feel like this is not only better for him, but everybody else in SGA, period. He'll just make all the roads go much smoother if there was that earlier elections in the uncertain period.
Advisor right now.
This would be actually really good too for fiscal responsibility through budgetary issues. Is that the budget is due in the summertime to Dr. Hurt, and it's very hard to review the budget. So if this group shadows and works with the new group, the budget can be ready before you even meet for the summertime. So this is a good step. So I didn't read the bill yet, but that might be needed to add. Budget reasons could be added in there too somewhere, just a suggestion, but I'm just an advisor, so.
Thank you so much, Matt. Two things. One, just this year alone, like so many other student governments at other universities have reached out to us in like June, May, even like sometimes earlier about like, who's your president next year? Like, can we collaborate with you? And we haven't even elected them yet. It's just kind of like, we're a little bit behind the ball. Like they have a whole programming calendar for fall and we're just like still, not even sure if they're gonna be elected yet. So I'm in support of this. My only thing would be being mindful of like the language of understudy versus shadow, just because understudy, at least in theater, means like serving in the place of somebody else. So I would say shadow and not use those interchangeably. That would just be my recommendation. So my formal recommendation, I guess, would be to substitute throughout the document shadow where it says understudy. And then, yeah, omit any other, like in the title to strike understudy and just say shadow period. Is that okay? Okay.
Does anyone accept our recommendation? Senator Rank,
I accept.
is there a second? Senator Harden?
I accept.
I second the recommendation. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll now move to a vote on the recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Without the motion passes, we'll add that in. Director Leo?
Just out of curiosity, when do the elections normally happen?
They normally happen the second week before last in April. And we don't typically find out until like right before May starts. Like who won the position.
And we're only trying to move it up by a week.
It's intentionally vague because we kind of wanted to see discussion if people wanted to make the date more specific. As in, like, when you look at the buoy where line, it says like the first Tuesday in April. So we left it vague on purpose to allow the Senate and any others to discuss if they wanted to make the date more specific. But in theory, it only move up by a week or two.
Dr. Eagle?
Are we able to specify like the date as Director Leo was stating, and we could do like April 1st, similar to what I believe we stated?
Oh, yeah, we can. While I have the floor, I just want to bring up, Chris Brendosh did bring up a concern to us that if we make the elections too early, what could happen is any potential members who ran and lost might just quit their current position in SGA. So I'm not saying like whether that should influence like when we should move the date up or not, but that was a concern Chris Brendosh did bring to us when we asked him how he felt about moving the elections up.
For starting a specific date, I feel like we should do instead of saying a specific date, because dates, they change throughout the year, every year. So every year, the dates land on different days. So one day, the first could be on a Monday, the next it could be on a Tuesday, and so on and so forth. I just feel like we should say it'll be like the first Monday of a month. I can't think of a specific one, just, for example.
I think that modeling it after perhaps Salisbury saying no later than whatever week, like the first week in April or something to that end, and whatever date it falls on is fine. Also, one thing to take into account, like elections happen that time, but inauguration isn't until, I don't know, like May 20th or something. So they technically, their term does not begin until inauguration day. So I would take that into account also.
Senator Ring.
I feel like the elections should not take place any later than the first week of April. Personally, from my experience being in leadership in other organizations, we allot 2 entire months of transition for the presidency and for the executive board. So I think either the first week of April or maybe like the 31st, is our 31st of March? I don't even know. 30th question mark of March. Because I feel like the longer the exec board has to prepare and shadow, the more efficient their term will be. So I'm personally open to like however early they want to make it, but at no later than the first week of April, in my opinion.
Dr. Leo,
For the sake of consistency, I would recommend that we do say the first Tuesday to the first Thursday or some period like that. Just to define it, I don't like the whole, as somebody who came from Salisbury, I don't like the whole no later than. It just puts too much confusion in the air until the very last minute.
okay, is that a formal recommendation in April?
Sure.
Can you please like rephrase it?
That we amend the question for Chief of Staff Ambush, where is the language of this in the bylaw? Is it in the bylaws?
No, so our bylaws and constitutions are vague, so this would actually be a change to our election policy.
Okay, so we therefore be it resolved that we amend the election policy. No, we're not amending the election
We
policy.
aren't able to directly amend the election policy from this bill. We would
So
need a
what's the
separate-
process for amending election policy?
So that would governing documents. So that would be requiring a separate bill. Yeah. So that would be the Senate bill. And that would come out of the rules committee. This resolution would essentially make it so rules would have to go back and look into that. And then that bill would be presented to us as the Senate bills kind of continuously come out through the rules committee.
Okay, I would then therefore be it resolved that the City Government Association formally requests that the Rules Committee revise the date of the election to the first Tuesday through the first Thursday of April.
Just for clarification, are you asking to change the first therefore be it resolved to that? Or would you like to add a separate therefore be it further resolved?
That we change.
The first one?
Yeah.
Completely? Okay.
Would anyone like to accept the recommendation? Senator Hayes,
I accept.
is there a second? Senator Matthews? Okay, is there any discussion on the recommendation? Senator Hayes? I would say, can we just pick one day instead of Tuesday through Thursday? Can we just pick a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? Instead of having that through, because then I feel like that can be confusing.
So my whole, what I'm thinking about it is, I don't think it should be as like early, you could do it maybe like a week or two, like as originally like, Steph was just saying. I was with the same thinking as, Mr. Rendosh, I think he said, that, if somebody runs for a position, they lose. As much as we like to think that we're still gonna do our jobs, we know that you're not gonna do the job if you lose. So that's what, I mean, I'm not saying that you're not, I'm just saying like the likelihood of that happening is slim. And as far as the transition materials, we can start preparing that now. Like for those of you who know you're not running next year, you can prepare that now. That doesn't have to wait until you have a solid to begin to collect the data that you need to give to your predecessor now instead of waiting to the next election cycle.
Okay, there's a lot of things I have to respond to here. I'm gonna start with Damon. I agree with you. Personally, if it was me, I would say the second Thursday and Friday of April. The reason for that is, like you said, we don't want it too early, and I think having multiple days of voting allows students multiple chances to like vote, or not multiple, everyone's voting once, but like multiple days, like at least 2 days for them to like get their lives together. It also gives time for the election committee to actually like put out the marketing materials, give them the time. I will say, when it comes to transition materials, while the material paper can be established now, a lot of things, and I think Treasurer Colquitt can speak to this, like actually doing like budget stuff is like, you can read it or reading it and like learning it are like very different. Sometimes you have to talk to the previous person, and like, again, like chief of staff stuff, like planning for summer retreat starts as soon as inauguration ends. Like the day inauguration ends is when the chief of staff has to start planning summer retreat. And so it's not, and obviously like, I won't know who's gonna be the next chief of staff. So even though I can detail out like how to plan summer retreat, like a lot of that stuff is very much like, how do I talk to this person? Who should I talk? It's like, it's very detailed and very complicated, and transitions is like several hours of like May to itself.
Treasurer Colquitt?
I actually just have a question. I'm not sure if anyone knows the answer. Maybe Senator Hayes. As it stands, our current election timeline through inauguration day, how many days are there? Like, because you don't really start your job until inauguration. So after you're elected, it's like a period of time where you're not really doing anything. Can you clarify?
As it stands right now, it would be a little less than 2 weeks. That the full week would be the first week of May, which is oftentimes the week before exams.
Senator Roshan. Granted. Director Leo?
I would ask that we keep with my original language, because like Senator Rink said, the earlier we can have an election, the more prepared the successor will be. And I also want to do Tuesday through Thursday so that there's 3 full days of voting available, because we've traditionally had low turnout. So hopefully adding another, if I'm under the correct understanding, there's 2 days for voting right now. So adding a 3rd day might increase the turnout.
Senator Ring?
I don't necessarily want to change the meaning of your recommendation. I just think it might make a little more sense within the context of the bill to change where it says early to mid-April and just add in your recommendation to occur within the first Tuesday through Thursday of April instead of rewording the therefore be it resolved. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Would you like to change your statement? You mind just like
Yeah,
saying?
I'll let Senator Rank change it to what you want to change it to.
Oh, okay, sorry. So do you want me to read the whole therefore? Okay. Therefore be it resolved that the Student Government Association approves the reconsideration of the election timing during the spring semester to occur the first Tuesday through Thursday of April, and then continuing with the rest of the therefore be it resolved as written. So we're only changing the early to mid section.
Director Eagle?
Chief of Staff Amber, just to clarify, this doesn't change, you know, there's a period where, they actually start campaigning in that. So this doesn't change that amount of time, it's just specific to the voting for students to actually vote.
Yeah, so this is yeah, you're exactly right. This is specific to, the actual voting. The election commission is the one that actually chooses the timeline for campaigning. Likely what they'll do is just say 2 weeks before the voting date.
Assistant Director Sultan. Granted. Justice.
So just to be clear, I was, the recommendation that was on, in that the election day be held between the second Tuesday to Thursday. First Tuesday to Thursday. I'm sorry, but I feel like we should be more specific on this date, like should it be Tuesday or Thursday? I don't feel Tuesday.
I think what Director Leo meant is that the first Tuesday would be the first day of voting, and then the first Wednesday and the first Thursday would be the second and third day of voting.
And this will be for April, right?
Just as a point of clarification, and I think Treasurer Colquitt was gonna bring this up as well. For this most recent election, were we extended to a week for students to be able to vote?
Anyone have that answer? Part of the vote?
I know that, oh, sorry. I was just trying to find it out. That's the only reason I'm on my phone. Sorry, guys. The voting ended on April 29th this past year. And voting opened the day before. So I think it was 2 days. Yeah, so it was the 28th and the 29th. And then I believe May 11th was inauguration, I want to say. Yeah. I also want to say we do a second round of voting. For example, like if not enough senators run, or if there's not enough justices, or there's a position on our executive board still open, we do a second round of voting. So moving the date earlier would help that second round of voting, because oftentimes that second round is in May, like first week of May. Unless, I'll be honest here, everyone clocked out once it hits May, like we're all focusing on exams and like going through summer, so I think that would also help. But I will say, I do think the second Tuesday through Thursday might speak better in April, because, you know, I'm also thinking about like budget hearing typically happens in April, and like, so I think moving it to the second would be risk of anyone being upset if they lost and potentially quitting, because even though your constitution duty says you have to do it, like technically there's nothing stopping anyone from just being like walking out and say I quit. Technically,
Just to kind of bring this all back in the same page, this is a discussion on the recommendation made by Director Leo.
I trust Chief of Staff's ambush, however you say that with an expertise, and would suggest that we revise Senator Rank and I's motion to say the second Tuesday instead of the first Tuesday, the second Tuesday through the second Thursday.
Is there another? Oh, you're amending. Okay, cool. So we're still good. Any further questions, concerns on the recommendation? Treasurer Goldwood?
I'm sorry, y'all, I know we want to go on the board, but I just have, I guess it's kind of a question. I don't really know how the election cycle works. This bill would push down the election period, meaning that our officers, like, and our senators and everybody's elected earlier. It would not push down the campaign period.
Chief of Staff Ambush, I'm sorry, be more quick.
Chief of Staff Ambush.
I think I know what you mean. So just to clarify for anyone, so inauguration will stay in May. So even if the election's earlier, they don't start until May. The election commission decides how long election cycles are. Typically, election cycles are about 2 weeks before the voting date. So if we, for example, this upcoming April, like if we pass this, the second Tuesday is April 12th through the 14th, meaning oftentimes they will say formal campaigning will start March the 29th, which is the last Tuesday in March, and run until the last day of voting. Typically, they give 2 weeks for campaigning, so it's like basically like the start of March, they'll be like, oh, SJ election time, everyone fills out their candidacy March. Then they'd be like the end of March, okay, you can start campaigning. And then if this bill passes, it'll be the second week in April, so you have 2 weeks to campaign. Second week of April is voting. They announce the results on the last day of the election, and then they'll spend the rest of the semester like shadowing their respective members until inauguration, which is the last day of classes before exams. And once inauguration happens, that formally says the new exec boards, and the old exec board is transitioning out. So no one starts their new positions until inauguration. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I think I understand. It's just something that like my question's kind of in alignment with Chris's concern. with members that are in current positions, I just hope it wouldn't impact anyone's ability to fill their current duties. Yeah.
Senator Madden.
Is there any like, at other schools and other campuses, is there any like previous instances of people doing that, or like where they lose an election and they just don't fill their position anymore?
Would you like to answer the question? Oh,
To answer the treasurer's question first, the election commission has rules about campaigning. If you're campaigning and not doing your job, technically you're barred from the campaign. So like, for example, I'm a senior, so I'm graduating. So I'll just use me. Like if I was a junior and I was running and then I stopped doing my chief of staff duties because I'm focusing on campaigning and someone reports me, the election commission can bar me from running anymore. So they have to continue their duties even if they're campaigning. And we have a rule that you cannot campaign during your office hours. And if you're caught doing that again, you can be reprimanded and barred from running. To answer your question, no, we haven't seen that. That's just more of a concern that the Chris Rendosh, who is the advisor for the election commission, just has, like, he worries that like if someone, loses and it's just, there's no evidence that this concern might happen. And I hope it wouldn't, because I believe anyone who would run for office loves their duty, but it is a genuine concern that some people have.
My concern with the whole like understudy period part also is if you're already in your position and you begin to like delegate work to your understudy, now your understudy, if they already have a position, now they're doing their job for the position that they're doing, and they're doing their understudy. They're doing does that make sense? Now they're starting to do the job that they just got elected to do, while they're also continuing the job that they already were hired to do. So they could possibly be doing what they're supposed to be doing now and in their understudy position. Does that make sense?
Senator Hayes.
So she was that Emma's gonna correct me, but is the purpose of like the shadow period, we're just kind of be able to watch them do their job instead of them actually doing. So it's not like you're going to a new job and you're training, like you worked at a restaurant. It's not like that. It's more so you're watching, say, President Vo do her duties so that you kind of get a feel and see you're not actually, like actually doing the job. You're just watching them do the job, if that makes sense. So you haven't gone through, inauguration yet. So you can't technically do your job until inauguration. So that period would just be you seeing how they do their job and understanding what's going on, and then you get inaugurated, and then you can actually do those duties you saw done before.
Senator Rank. We have not voted on the recommendation yet, which is just to change the language. So I feel we should either vote on that now or. Yeah, I call question.
We'll now vote. We'll now vote on the recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining?
Senators do not need to vote for call question.
I'm sorry. With that, the motion passes and the recommendation has passed. Now we can have the discussion on the resolution as a whole. Director Leo.
I recommend that we call the question on the main motion to pass the resolution as a whole,
Because
we have two other bills to consider tonight.
Does anyone accept that recommendation? You can accept it. You don't have to second it if you don't want it to go through, but you have to accept it. Senator Evelyn, is there a second? Senator Salim? Okay, is there any discussion? Vice President Tristan.
Just as a point of clarification, we actually only have one more bill to review for this GA. And it is only 6:16, so I would like it if we would just make sure that we are aware of that timing and the way that we only have the one bill, just that way we are not rushing through this process.
Director Edwards. I agree. You already said we only have one more bill, and like this this bill has serious ramifications for next year and the years in the future. And this is like directly affects our leadership for the year. So we should seriously like consider like what we're doing here.
Justice Steele?
Okay, I just wanted to also agree that I think that people may have a lot of comments and discussion on this bill, so I don't think it's appropriate to.
I thought there were two more bills, so I apologize for that. There's already the motion on the table and it was accepted and seconded, so I think you have to vote on it. Is that correct?
No, okay. Yeah, you still have to vote on it.
So,
But before we vote, is there any more discussion that needs to be had with the opinion?
if we don't want to call the question, I would move to, point of parliamentary inquiry, or do we have in our standing rule formal pro-con debate where there's one pro, one con, one pro, one con? No, okay, then never mind.
No, we're good. Okay. Vice President Triscott.
If we would like to make a recommendation to limit discussion, that way everybody does share one pro and one con, we can do that. However, we do not have anything currently in those standing rules of order that would have that specifically, unless it was specified. But we do have to finish voting on this motion first before we can make any recommendations to any other motion.
One more.
Leo.
So I recommend that we reject my motion, but formalize, that each person can only have one. That'll be a subsequent motion.
It'll have to be after.
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Just bring it.
All that together. Thank you. We'll now move into a vote on the recommendation to call to question. We're on the same page here. Cool. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? That motion does not pass. We're back to our general discussion on the resolution as a whole. Chief English.
I would like to answer Director Edwards' question before about like worrying about shadowing. I just want to echo what Senator Hayes said. The shadowing would not be like they are doing the person's job. The shadowing is more like saying like, oh, I'm allowed to tell the next chief of staff what to do. And those time, and oftentimes like once the election's over, it's already the end of April, early May. So programming's already died down. But they will still have to do their constitutional duties. So most of the shadowing will happen either outside of office hours or it would be like a small part of their office hours. It shouldn't impact their constitutional duties of the position they're currently in.
And prior to that, we can't discuss candidacy or anything in the office, so it would allow to speak about the next administration, which we can't do currently. And also I don't want us to assume or like discuss through like the veil of us thinking that the next group will be someone in this room because people can run regardless if they've been in SGA or not. So that's really beneficial in those cases. So it's not a train wreck afterwards, to say it gently, for people who have never been in the organization, has never seen how we operate, anything like that. But they can very well still run. So I think that the shadow period could be beneficial when we think about it that way as well. Remind me of your last name, Assistant Director.
Apple, point of personal
Thank you.
privilege.
Granted. Vice President Triscott.
Also, just adding on to the shadowing portion, It can be somewhat difficult from administration to administration to continue certain aspects, especially if we do have a significant amount of people that are graduating, or who will not be returning to SJ, anything along those lines. Within transition materials, it's great to have everything in writing, but it can be very difficult to translate that into what it really means in person. Specifically with committees, we've seen it happen a lot where it can be tough to kind of carry committees consistently through administrations, unless they are in those governing documents, or they have people that are a part of SGA that are able to continue those conversations there. So this shadow period would also just kind of be a way to allow people to get to know what's going on, what everyone would like to kind of continue forward with, and everything along those lines, just to allow for that to be a little bit more smoother, a little bit more seamless, as well as just consistently kind of keeping up with the changes that we want to see at the university, whether it's pertaining to a resolution or something else that is going on.
I'll be really quick, and some of it, I know a lot of us are new, so I just want to provide some objective knowledge from participating in the election cycle before, but please don't think I'm trying to sway you to vote any kind of way. But I do want to include that it's the same way that the new group's term starts on inauguration day, the last group ends. So they're not required to do anything for transition after inauguration day. So it's easier if we were to start earlier, or it's not, I don't want to say it's easier, but it's then, or I guess it would be easier for you to mandate someone to facilitate transition when they're still required to serve in their duties. Because afterwards, they don't have to care about SGA anymore, or anything going on at the university. So there's something to consider.
Assistant Director
Wilhelm,
Wilhelm
personal privilege.
granted. Chief of Amherst.
One last comment, I promise. I just want to say, love the previous administrations, but there was a time where one of the senior members of SGA graduated and left nothing. Poof. When I mean left no transition materials, they left nothing. We had to rely on transition materials from like 3 years ago. We had to rely on transition materials of other SGA members to kind of put puzzles together. Like when I say like, it is a miracle that we were able to get some of the things done because we literally, some of us had scribble scratch or transition materials in previous administrations. So again, I think it's really important, and I will say I'm thankful that when I did my transition, I had someone who helped me transition, but I know that's not a guarantee for everyone.
If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote on resolution number 19. Vote. Vice President.
I just want to make a quick comment. If any senators take a point of personal privilege during any of these resolutions, you do automatically have to abstain because you missed some portion of the conversation. So that just stands with all resolutions, not calling anybody out, just general knowledge for everybody.
Director Eagle.
Can you reiterate if there's gonna be any changes and all that before they vote? Like if there's, we discussed about like the dates and all that stuff.
Okay. Yes, Director.
Parliamentary inquiry, where in the bylaws does it state that they automatically have to abstain? That doesn't seem, I trust your experience, but that doesn't seem appropriate to limit someone's vote. Is that in the bylaws?
I'm not sure.
Is there Robert's rules or standing rules of order?
But it also does make sense that if someone wasn't here throughout like most of the discussion, that they won't vote because they're not listening.
I'm on my phone just because I'm looking.
Yeah, but they're gonna check for you to tell you where. Director, you said you wanted the changes that would need to be reinstated.
Yes.
Who keeps record of that? I can kind of help me out, Director Moody.
Yeah, so
So yeah, Director Leo make the rest of recommend, make the recommendation to allow the day elections the second Tuesday through the 20th Thursday of April. And it was passed.
So did that, was done. Justice. Lee?
Where it says that. So it's in article, standing room order, article 7, section 1, subsection C, someone must abstain if subsection A, they missed the part.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Okay, anything else before we proceed to vote on resolution number 19? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? With that, the motion passes. Resolution 19. Motion for Senator Maddox.
I move that we review resolution 20.
Is there a second? Senator Evelyn? Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll now move to review resolution number 20. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? With that, the motion passes. We're now reviewing resolution number 20, which was written by Senator Rank on behalf of Director Johnstone. So if you guys would like to speak on behalf of the board. Granted. Yeah, so if you guys would like to speak on behalf of the bill, give us the honor, Director Johnstone.
So I did make a short PowerPoint about the bill, in regards to the clarification of the bill that I sent to Chief Stackhouse. I don't know if he has that or not. But it's fine. Anyway, so this bill is basically stating that Towson University will. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, it's on. My bad. Yes.
You're good.
Okay. Okay, cool. So, all right, carbon neutrality by 2030. If you'd like to go to the next slide. So I just have a few basic definitions. Carbon neutrality is a state of net zero carbon emissions, meaning that whatever entity is carbon neutral will not produce any more carbon emissions than they take in. This is extremely important to the slowing and hopefully halting of the current climate catastrophe that we are living in. Currently, Towson University is committed to carbon neutrality by 2050. If you'd like to go on to the next slide, we can talk about that. All right, so why 2030? According to an article posted by the United Nations in 2019, we only have until 2030 to slow our carbon emissions before the world reaches a tipping point in its warming. If we do not reach carbon neutrality by 2030, we will see mass glacier melt, rising sea levels, the loss of crops, which would result in a mass famine, and natural disasters will become much more common and much more powerful. We're already seeing some of these effects. The wildfires in California are one example. The hurricanes happening in the Gulf of Mexico are another example. And as a student government association, we have a civil duty to do all that we can to protect the students and preserve their right to a livable planet. I think next slide, please. All right, so what is the Future Act? The Future Act goes into 3 scopes. Scope 1 is direct emissions. Scope 2 is indirect emissions, and scope 3 is induced emissions. Direct emissions are emissions physically produced on campus. That includes things like boilers, central heating plants, on-campus power plants, etc. Indirect emissions are emissions resulting directly from campus-affiliated activities that occur at sources owned and controlled by a separate entity. So this is emissions purchased by the university that are produced by the use of fossil fuels. A big one of these is electricity. We use a lot of that on campus, and almost none of that is usable right now. Induced emissions are sources not owned or controlled by the university. This includes air travel, study abroad travel, commuters, all that kind of stuff. And basically what the Future Act says is that all this would have to be carbon neutral by 2030. Put it very simply. So this bill is basically going to commit Towson University to that bill, making sure that by 2030, it is completely carbon neutral, meaning we won't be putting any more carbon emissions into the air that we take out, and then we can work on becoming carbon negative. But yeah, do we have any questions or anything? Sorry, that's on my.
Senator Rank, did you want to add?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Director Johnson, for bringing this up. I helped write this bill. This bill, for like the Senate's reference, is a edit and resubmittal, if that's how you would say that, of a bill that passed last administration that the Senate passed. It got lost within the faculty. So I also would like to say that not only is it our constitutional duty as the SGA, since this is something that would affect not only students, but the entire greater Baltimore area. It's also Towson University's mission and strategic plan and in their values to maintain an environmentally stable campus. And the fact that they are not currently committed to being carbon neutral by 2030 is a bit concerning, in my opinion. So holding them accountable is also part of our duty as Senate and the state government as a whole. I had another point, but I do not remember I do remember. When President Chancellor came to speak to us, she also mentioned that we are currently already on course to complete something of this nature, being carbon neutral by 2030. So there's no reason that we shouldn't formalize it so that we can hold them accountable in the future if we do not end up reaching that goal. So I feel strongly that this is an important piece of legislation.
My main question is that 2030 is in 9 years and we just started November, so it's been 8 years. Is this like realistic? Is this a realistic goal?
To answer that, unfortunately, it's gonna have to be. It's really not a matter of whether it's realistic or not. It's a matter of this has to get done. I think if that answers your question, that works. But if you're asking like, where are we in the scope of things right now? To give some updates, we are going to have 100% renewable electricity purchased by 2030. So that's something that's good. And there are other works in product or process, right now that do concern sustainability and making sure that we are carbon neutral by that time. So it is, I think, going to happen, at least at Towson University. Kim Schnatzel also said that it should happen by 2030. So that's a good indicator as well. But yeah, that's all.
The second point is, the second be it resolved is says that we will write a letter of testimony. Will that be in support of the future? I'm assuming it will be, it doesn't say.
Yes, it would.
Okay, and you'll be writing that letter?
Correct.
Oh, all right.
I would actually recommend that we do specify that section because there are several ways that could go. I would recommend specifying it to add a comma after association and then specifying that the Director of Civic Engagement as well as the Director of Legislative Affairs both write a testimony. If that is what you are going for. But I also wanted to note, this was the bill that is specifically noted in here from the Maryland legislator was one that we as SGA supported last year. So this is not like new to the university. This idea and concept isn't new. Although that bill did not get passed in that past legislative session, that conversation was happening. It was there. So the university does kind of already have a hint about this. And a similar bill, if not, as Senator Ring said, like a very similar rendition of this bill was passed last year as well. So again, this isn't quite as new of a conversation as it would be if we were just now presenting this. sorry, I'm going to retract the fact that that is a formal recommendation and just put it out there as an idea.
Hi, everybody. So just my only, I guess, added comment to what Vice President Triscopo was mentioning, if we were to specify who that was, simply because, and I hope I don't give power hungry vibes, because that's not what I'm trying to say. But because the only two, persons who are able to speak on behalf of the SGA are the president and the director of communications. I'm fine with saying specifically the director of civic engagement, or, I'm sorry, civic engagement and sustainability, or whomever, but with some kind of nod to, with, I guess, approval of the president, might, that doesn't sound right to me, but I just don't, this is specific to this year, so I just wanna, let me wait before I say much more. Hold on, I just wanna clarify really quickly. Do you see, is my concern valid? Do you see what I'm trying to say? I'm not always as articulate as I need to be. I'm calling everybody.
Staff ambush.
While yes, the president and the director of communications has, are the only people who can speak on behalf of this, student body, technically the director of legislative affairs has the power to write legislation if the Senate approves it. So technically, the director of legislative affairs also has that responsibility.
My bad, sorry. I agree. I retract my comment, I guess. Yeah. Yes.
Just as a quick point of information, because of that right to create and basically provide a letter of testimony for the Mary PIRG, Student Climate Action Coalition. For like that future act, would we then only be able to reserve that right specifically to the Director of Legislative Affairs, or would we also be able to add into that the Director of Civic Engagement?
If the Senate says it, then it can happen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Director Johnson, do you wish to add?
Yeah. If I can make a few formal recommendations, I'd like to accept Vice President Triscopo's recommendation to add.
Can you, she did not actually make, so if you want to make that recommendation.
That'd be great. Yeah. So going along the lines of what Vice President Triscopo said, adding a comma after my apologies. So, testimony, the Director of Legislative Affairs, Civic Engagement, Sustainability. Another formal request that I would like to make, actually.
Yeah, and the recommendations can be done like one by one, so, yeah. If I will proceed to vote on this first one that you make, and then if there's another one that arises, you can bring it up again. Cool. So can you rephrase it one more time for this one, so we can all be on the same page? So you recommend that.
I would like to make a formal recommendation that after testimony, comma, the Director of Legislative Affairs and Civic Engagement will write, whatever comments.
Is that in the therefore be resolved, the therefore be further resolved? The therefore be resolved,
Therefore
correct?
be resolved, correct.
Further resolved?
Therefore be it further resolved.
Further resolved, okay. Would anyone like to accept that recommendation? Senator Maddox,
Senator Matt, accept that recommendation.
is there a second? Senator Harding,
Thanks. I second that.
is there any discussion? Yes, Senator Ring.
Director Johnson, I would ask that we remove that after Student Government Association and say Towson University Student Government Association, or Towson University's Student Government Association's Director of Sustainability and Civic Engagement and Director of Legislative Affairs, or however you wrote that. I would ask that that's moved after Student Government Association instead of after testimony. Is that what you meant? Okay.
So that's an amendment to the recommendation.
President Velez, you have something to add?
It was just a question, but it was in reference to the recommendation. So I'm gonna get it. The last whereas says who will be writing the formal letter. Is that the same letter of testimony we're talking about in the therefore be it further resolved?
Yes, it is.
It is,
Do we
so,
need to add, Director of Legislative Affairs in that as well?
I would say yes, but I just don't know why it needs to be there twice. First, I mean, I think if anywhere, it should be in the therefore be it further resolved, but not necessarily in the whereas, because it's not providing any context. So I would say after, never mind. I'm gonna just be quiet till we vote on this and then we'll come back.
And Senator, I'm so sorry, Director Leo.
I see what President DeVoe is saying. I get, vote on this, and then I think what we should do is after that whereas, get rid of that entire section, but that will be a motion after that.
So, yeah. Is there any further discussion on this current recommendation? Senator Ring.
I just wanted to restate the motion for.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's the recommendation is to change the therefore be it resolved. Towson University Student Government Association's Director of Sustainability and Civic Engagement and Director of Legislative Affairs will write a letter of testimony for the Mary Perk Student Climate Action Coalition Future Act.
That is the recommendation that is currently on the floor. Vice President Christopher.
Following that recommendation, please, everyone refrain from discussing other recommendations until the recommendation that's currently being discussed is voted on. Just that way, everybody's on the same page consistently.
Thank you so much for that. Kate, is there any further discussion on this current recommendation? If not, we'll now vote on this recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed or abstaining? Thank you, that the motion passes and the recommendation passes. Is there any discussion on the bill as a whole? Treasurer Colquitt?
Thank you. I think I recall it surely on the third, whereas, line 3 says mutual 4 by 2035, just remove the 4. That's removed. Third whereas, third line, remove the 4. I'm not the mutual. And then I have another question about the bill. Who is like Mary Purd, MSAC? Is that an organization? Are they the sponsor of this bill, the Future Act? They wrote it?
Yeah, they're the creator of the bill. So it's MSCAC stands for Mary Kerr Student Climate Action Coalition.
Okay.
So that's all. They just made the bill.
Okay, I would say I have a few concerns with, I don't know. I guess under whereas 2, where it says like, whereas a member of our organization is affiliated with this private organization, we support this. I wouldn't really, like that would open the door for anyone who's affiliated with any organization to write an SGA bill in support of something that legislation does. I love the bill and what it aims to do, but I would caution against the affiliation with Mary Purr so much and as not so much as the bill. But that's just my recommendation.
Dr. Johnson, did you wish to address?
I mean, that's fine. I think there was something in the past bill that said something similar, so we just wanted to switch it up a little bit. But if you think that, or rather, the Senate thinks that we should cut it, then I'm good with that.
Dr. Leo?
I support what Treasurer Colquitt said, and I think even down the road, we might be able to make a formal partnership in a different bill. I see where you're going with that whereas. So yeah, I support the.
Has anyone made a formal recommendation to Senator Ring?
I move to strike the section saying which Towson University Student Government Association's Director of Sustainability and Civic Engagement is affiliated with in the second whereas.
Okay.
No,
No,
just
no.
this middle section.
Okay, you made a
Yeah.
recommendation, okay, great. Is there a second? Senator Evelyn, is there any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll now move into a vote on this recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Great, without the motion passes. Chief Justice Artado Olson.
I motion that we limit debate for 10 minutes. Or two 10 minutes.
That's a senator's.
Or, sorry, I recommend
Okay.
sorry, I meant,
What was the recommendation?
I recommend that we limit debate to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Or for this bill. to 10 minutes.
Anyone like to accept that recommendation? Senator Washington Merit,
I have a recommendation.
is there a second? Senator Saline? Is there any discussion? President DeVoe?
Sorry, no, I'm sorry. I wouldn't go, I'm just wary of limiting discussion on certain bills, like documenting that we did, just because it appears as though we don't find it like necessary or significant, at least the way I see it. But like, if you all wanted to, like, if the discussion went on to, it's the first reading of the bill, so I don't think we should limit debate on it, per se. And I know we all might feel like the Senate is slanting a certain way and that a vote is coming soon, but that's not necessarily guaranteed, so I wouldn't, but that's just.
Did you have anything else to say? Chief Justice Artado? Vice President Triscoe.
I actually somewhat disagree, only because it's 6:48, so we're going to have to vote in 10 minutes regardless. Because we'll still have to go through the adjournment. Yeah, we'll still need to have that vote regardless of limiting discussion or not. And-
Oh. Someone can. Ask the question.
I asked, the J board can tell me this, but I'm just not sure. So when we limit debate, does that mean that we then have to vote on the bill as a whole, or can we then still vote to table it? Because if we can still vote to table, then I retract my comment. However, I just don't want it to be pressured for us to vote on it now.
Oh, I see.
That's what I'm saying. No, I'm just not sure if that's how that works or not.
Yeah, Chief Justice Artado Olson.
My interpretation is that you would still be able to motion to table within, like, before that time limit expires.
So before the 10 minutes expires. you
Yeah.
said
A motion to table.
to table within the 10 minutes
Yeah.
constraint. Right, at this point, it's 5:49, so, it is, yeah, we need to vote on the recommendation, so, if there's no further comments, concerns on this, we'll vote on the recommendation to limit discussion to 10 minutes. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Thank you. I believe without the motion still passes. Discussion has been limited to 10 minutes. So it will end at 7 o'clock. Yeah. So we're back on discussing resolution number 20. Director Johnson.
If I may make a formal amendment to the bill, I would like to cut out, my apologies. I would like to cut out and tune and therefore be it resolved. After discussing with the current Assistant Director of Sustainability, I learned that we do not actually operate how carbon neutral tune is. It's owned by a separate entity entirely. So I would just like to cut that to avoid confusion.
So anything that has to do with tuning here? you're
Yes.
saying You wanna remove?
Please.
Okay. Does anyone accept the recommendation? Senator Rank?
Accept.
Is there a second? Senator Maddox?
A second.
Okay, is there any discussion? If not, we're now moving to a vote on the recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed or abstaining? Great, with that, the motion passes. President DeVoe. I recommend that, the Senate strikes the last whereas section. I don't think it needs to be there anymore because you all like restated that already, and then therefore be it further resolved. I'm fine with leaving the first sentence, but the last sentence now is contradictory with the new amendment. So I would strike the second sentence of the last whereas section. Would anyone like to accept our recommendation? Senator Hayes, I'm sorry, I thought I saw a hand up. Senator Mackey, is there a second? Senator Saline? Is there any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll now move to a vote to strike that portion of the last whereas. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Great, that's the motion passes. That will be taken out. Last whereas. Any further discussion? This bill. Okay, if there is no discussion, we'll now move into a vote on resolution number 20 as a whole. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Great, that the motion passes. Resolution number 20. Okay, that's it for new business for today. Are there any announcements?
Hi, guys. Try not to check out too quickly. Thank you all for your engagement today. I will say next Tuesday after GA, at 7 p.m., the SGA will be co-hosting the first basketball game, which is the women's basketball game. So please, I know you all feel really passionate about your individual duties, but please participate in SGA involvement around campus. That is purely for social nature and like building camaraderie too. We just want you all to like show your faces as well as like encourage people to be proud to be a Towson Tiger. So, you know, come out to the game and look out for ways to volunteer. But that's all for now. Yeah.
Will that be at second?
What'd you say?
Will that be at second?
At CP, yeah. So it'll be at CP Arena. But yeah, we'll need volunteers and stuff like that. So just look out for information about that. And if it goes up until 7 GA that day, you know, don't worry about it too much. We can figure out how you can be involved later in the game or what have you. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, Senator Harding.
You said it's on Tuesday?
It is on Tuesday, next week, November 9th.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, anyone else? Other questions? Okay, if you have any ideas or stuff that you'd like to see at the game, like please let me know, or any of your exec liaisons. Thanks so much.
Vice President Tristan.
Hi all, thank you so much for an amazing GA. Really excited about that basketball game. It's gonna be fun. And I appreciate you all contributing so much to conversation. I did want to remind everyone, please continue to request legislation, please continue to talk to senators, but also understand that we do have to put these bills through committee. So although it might be taking a minute and you're like, what's happening? It's mostly because we have to make sure that these bills are going through those processes. So your bill is not going to turn around in a single day, getting ready for these general assemblies. We just want to make sure that everything is as packaged, there's as much information as everyone needs, and we're able to really present these issues and topics for the students. That way we can continue these things. So just keep that in mind. And thank you all again for your amazing ideas and contributions to this legislation. And GI as a whole, as well as SGA, because you guys are amazing. Senator.
I just want to add to that. If you're sending legislation to GovOps, I mentioned this before, but it's super helpful and helps them pass faster if you explain the bill, or if you're able to come to GovOps to explain the bill, because the reason sometimes they get delayed really far is because we have questions and there's no one to answer them. So just, if that's a concern of yours, like send me something. I do.
Really quickly, I can share some examples of like legislation requests with research and things like that, that like request legislation but don't know like how, like, you know, what to include. I can work with VP Triscopta on that.
Director Johnson.
Do we have the members of the week this week?
Oh, no.
I usually do two, so I'll do one on Thursday as well. But this first member of the week goes to a member of the Senate. And they have done such a tremendous job coming in. I know that they may have been a little nervous when they first joined, but they came with such passion and fire. Was kind enough to take copious notes during the disability forum last week. And I really do want to shout them out. So Senator Maddox. Legislation coming soon, I hope.
Any further announcements? Yes. I'm not sure.
Can you say your last
Yeah,
name,
do you
please?
mind letting us know your last name and your position?
Oh, shit. Okay, that's crazy. I can project.
There's one more right here.
That's also cool. This projecting did that. Hi, everyone. This has been really great to observe, really awesome. Like a weird mixture of boring, but also interesting at the same time. So like, take that as a huge compliment. I am Vice President of URG, University Residence Government, office over there in West Village, Macaulay, Julian Macaulay. I am here on behalf of my president, Sanaya Clark, just to share with you guys some things where we're at and everything, and also just to put it in your heads that we want to just like really get coordinated with you guys, like getting a total teamwork thing going on heading into next semester and next semester. So for one, we are working with Garda World. If you're unfamiliar with them, that is the company that we work with. They provide security at the CCA desks and everything after 11 p.m. to that time in the morning, whatever it is. I think 5, 6, cool, 6, better on us. So there was a problem with that. They were low staffed and everything for a little while. However, that got worked out. There are now more employees together, so there are employees for each building. So that's straightened out. And then another thing, it's just, we are in the process of being revamped right now. So this also comes as like a question and like a request from you guys. We really need SBA's help. We are on life support right now. As of right now, no complete building councils for the residence halls. And the executive board or the executive cabinet is pretty much the whole URG in its entirety besides RAs and whatnot. So that's where we're at. We would love for you guys just to, you know, spark interest in the community, try to get them involved in building councils just to, you know, bring us back to life. And going forward, we just want to really collaborate with SGA in getting like our events going on, and so we can help students build trust back in, you know, on campus stuff, because everyone knows we got kicked off campus twice, and that has not been doing very well for the residence halls. And right now, students just want to feel in place and everything, so we just want to make sure that they feel comfortable in the environment and we're able to move forward. That's pretty much it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. We will also have a URG representative like myself or the other vice president coming in from GAs, just to, you know, stay coordinated with you guys. So always stay in contact with us, ask us anything.
Thank you so much. Anything else? Okay, if not, is there any motion on the floor? Senator Ranks,
I'm with you, John.
is there a second? Senator Harden,
I second.
is there any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll now move to adjourn. All those in favor? We close. And